5, 16, 19, 21, 30, 3, and 10. Check results. You remember?
I'm a freak. I'm a weirdo, as the song goes. Oh, dog's just casually choking in the background. That's something you'll love to see. Adds a bit of ambience. Oh, I just scratched the inside of my ear and just rubbed my nose with what is, yep, one of the worst smelling dog treats I've ever smelled in my life. This is the Guardians of the Galaxy volume. Trois. Talk about. Now she's drinking my drink. No, we don't share drinks. This isn't a rule that we let on. I'm not that close to the dog. She's doing it against my will. She knows. She knows I am compromised by this. And I can't do anything about it. I've just been fucking baited in my own fucking bedroom. What are you even drinking? Is that... That's just water. Okay, it's nothing alcoholic. Guardians of the Galaxy. There'll be spoilers. There'll be non-stop chat because I've seen it today, the day it came out. And it has to be said, pretty good. And there will be spoilers starting from now. First one being, I was singing that song for a reason. Opening song in this, no longer just 80s tunes, mainly 80s and 90s now. With I think only one 2000s song in there at the very end, because now they've got like the Zune, which is basically an iPod, which allows you, thousands of tracks. And yeah, look, I'm not going to do a complete run through of this movie. Like, it starts off, it opens up, he's walking through, it's this and that, this happens, they go here, they run there, they'll fight, cry, fight some more, cry a little bit, this time we're happy, then it ends and the credits roll, and you're still sitting there, because it's a Marvel film, and there might be a scene, no, there's definitely a scene, and you want to watch it, you're going to watch it, although there wasn't one in... Which film was the last one that didn't have one? I swear there was one recently where there wasn't an end credit scene. I was going to say Black Panther 2, but there was. And it wasn't very... Oh, no, there wasn't. That was just the end of the film. It kind of felt like an end credit scene for some reason, but it wasn't. I think Black Panther 2 didn't have one. This one did. They were kind of just little story beats, little extra scenes, kind of, little fun things. Although I prefer that than, like, when they try and do something cool or set up and it just feels like cheap. Example being the end credit scene in Eternals with Harry Styles and the little ugly fucking Spiderwick character. Thor Love and Thunder with the guy from Ted Lasso being Hercules. And then Doctor Strange 2 with Charlize Theron. Whatever the fuck that shit was. This was kind of just like... Again, I'm allowed to speak, but I said spoilers at the beginning. It was like, best way to start at the very, very end, am I right? It was, whoa, Doge. Careful now. Don't pause the audio. It was like, oh, the team as you knew it is gone, but we've got, the title isn't dead. It's basically, we're going to make these forever, baby. We're going to make this cash money forever. It was good. It was my favorite out of the three. I'm going to get that right out of the gate. Also going to get that right out of the gate. I need to be refreshed. I need my insides cleansed. It was, firstly, the big debate. Who dies? Does Rocket die? Does Drax die? Does Peter Quill die? Do they all die? No. The answer is no one dies. No one dies, right? No one has to die. It feels like a lot of the time. I'm basically taking the words out of James Gunn's mouth here when I say this, but you get caught in this predictability-ness. Like, it's predictable. That's what I'm trying to say. It feels like you go through films, especially of a trilogy. In the first one, maybe someone dies, but no one of that much importance. Second film, maybe someone dies, but it's someone who was introduced in that film, it feels like, maybe. And then you get to the third one, and it's like, well, we need to prove that there's stakes. We need to prove that you can't always, everyone just gets through, so someone has to die. And it's never 3 or 4 people die. It's never 2 people. It's always pretty much one guy will die. And, from the main ones, the main cast, the main 5 or 6, because in the first ones, maybe someone important dies, but, like I said, it's like they're a little bit more on the outskirts than the main crew. So it kind of just feels like, okay, well, we're at the one. I remember when we got to Endgame, and it's like, well, one of them has to die. And it was just like the guess, like, there's going to be one death. Is it going to be this one, that one, this one, that one? And although in that one there was technically Black Widow dies, you get Iron Man dying out of the main ones. So there was two, for example, in that one. But usually it's like, okay, we're just gonna do one and then this and that and this and that, and it's like it's gonna kind of feel predictable regardless. Whereas this, it was like they managed to create something where no one dies, a lot of people nearly die, and it still feels emotional throughout. What I said is I want to be made to feel uncomfortable in this film, but for a reason that's new to me for Marvel, not out of cringe, but out of just, if the critics are saying it's maybe it's a little bit too grim, it goes a little bit too far, like animal cruelty or things like that, or it goes a little bit too far in whatever, go there. Make me feel uncomfortable. Make me think this is a little bit too far, because I'll feel refreshing. At least I'll be feeling something for once in a recent Marvel film, which would be nice. And they do. I mean, again, I said spoilers. I can talk about what I want it to be. So like, what's the word? I can't think of the word about what I'm trying to say. But I mean, I think the first time in the film, I felt like, oh my god, actually, that's like, it was like, I remember when like Rocket's head was like shaved and they did the surgery on his skull or whatever, and he walks back into the cage, and it's just like that was like, oh, this is like grim. I'm like acknowledging this is sad, but I didn't feel like anything covering me. I think it was when, again, I can speak about the film, the otter thing, Lila, I want to say, gets shot, and we all knew that all three of them were gonna die, right? We're just like, but when, type of thing. They do a thing where it's like, this happens a lot in movies. You know characters are gonna die, but you don't know when they're gonna die, and they kill them like just before you think they will. Like you think, oh, what's probably gonna happen is they're running through this thing, and then they're trapped, and they have to leave them, and they die there. And then as you're thinking, okay, so they're probably gonna die, then they die in front of you. Like, oh my god, it happened like 5-10 minutes earlier than I thought. And I don't think Bradley Cooper does the voice acting for this little rodent all through his life. I think they had 3 different actors doing the voice of this raccoon, like young, teenage kind of, and then where we are now. And yeah, I mean, Bradley Cooper's voice acting, I think, is darn good, especially when we get to Vin Diesel in a minute. But he just shows like he's not like just in for being a celebrity, like he's good at it. And whoever does it, even if it's not him, when like the otter gets shot, oh, that's the first time I thought, oh, this is actually sad. Oh my god, like the way he was crying, and then everyone else gets shot, and then he's like running, and it's just like, it's just sad. This is just sad. It's like similar feeling when I was watching No Way Home. No Way Home was one where like Peter's crying over Aunt May, and I'm watching it like this, just like, oh, it's actually quite sad, actually. Oh no, I actually feel quite sad. And that's basically what I'm like when I watch a film. Like, Adam Warlock on this film, I wish he was in it a little bit more. Like, when I say a little bit more, I just mean I just needed a few more scenes, I think. Just a bit more connective tissue. That's all I needed. A bit more connective tissue. But I mean, like, in terms of screen time, not even a minute. Probably like 45 seconds more screen time. But just specific connective tissue here and there. That's all I needed from him. Really like the character, though, like the actor. And the way he is like in the film, where he's like, oh my god, I feel sad right now. I don't like this feeling washing over me. Like, that's kind of like what happens to me when I'm watching a film sometimes. I'm like, oh no. What is this? I don't like this. Oh, it's sad. And that's kind of how it goes. And the second moment, and even though I know, I got to there's a certain part where you think, Rocket, they made it kind of obvious that Rocket's going to be the one who dies in the trailers. That makes you double back and you think, okay, well, it's not going to be him then. It's because obviously while you're watching, you don't know if there is going to be any deaths or whatever. But I kind of lost, like, I believe there was a chance he was going to die up until, when did I'm not sure when I just believed he wasn't. I can't remember. There was a specific point where I was like, okay, I feel like we've gone far enough in a way, and certain things have happened where I think he'll be okay. And also, this is where trailers ruin things a little bit, because they were doing the thing where they were saving his life on like the table, right? They found the key code and I was putting it in, and it's like, oh wait, and in that moment it took me out. I remembered a scene in the trailer where like they're all fighting in this hallway, and it's like, oh, that's not happened yet. That's still to come. He's alive, and he looks pretty sprightly in those scenes in the trailer. So I think that's what tipped me off. Literally knowing what happens is what tipped me off. But that was the second moment I felt sad, and that's impressive because even though I knew at that point, oh, he's gonna live through this type thing, just the acting of it worked well. I love in a scene when someone dies and it's like, this is how most deaths go in movies, but like someone dies and then someone's really close to that person, and then you got another party who's less close, and it's like that person's like, they're gone. Okay, they're gone, and the other person's like screaming belligerent nonsense, sort of like doing stuff now to try and save him that doesn't even really make sense because they're just like so desperate type thing. They're just like in that kind of crazy point. It's like, I like it in that a lot of people clown Daniel Radcliffe for this part of the film, but when Cedric dies and then the dad comes in, he's like, my boy, they killed my boy. And then Harry is there and he's like on the body, and it's like, okay, Harry, that's the guy's actual blood dad, so maybe just cry off his body now. But even though in the scene where like he's on him, and then I can't remember who it is, but they're trying to rip him off the body, and he's like, no, and he's like hugging him and stuff. I'm like, that's good. And this was like the same, like Chris Pratt's like spitting and shit like out his mouth, and it's just like, this is good. And like he was like screaming at this point, and then it cuts back on his face, and that's where the good, like, it was good, like the scream was good and stuff, and like the emotion in his face. But what really put me over the edge, and I was like, you know what, Chris Pratt actually deserves some credit for this film, more than I think he's gonna get, is when it cuts back on his face, and it was like this sort of on his face, it was like the desperation there after the scream, like after it had like settled and it cuts back to his face. It was really good. I just thought, you know, Chris Pratt deserves some credit here, because I know people don't put him down as the best emotional actor, but he's more of a comedic guy. Like he's best for the comedic scenes. And I think previously I'd say, maybe it carries over still for this film, but a lot of people go, Chris Pratt's best at the comedic stuff, and some of the other actors are better at the emotional stuff, and then, you know, they all have their good moments and their bad moments in each genre, each direction, whatever. I thought Chris Pratt bridged that gap in this film, where he was good at emotional, and kind of humor as well, but he was kind of playing like more of a straight man in this film, with like when Gamora's back and she's like rageful and stuff, and she's just shooting people in the thighs, she's slitting throat. She's just like, you got kids, don't care, boom, they can get one between the eyes as well, and she's just being ruthless and stuff. And he's kind of more being funny because he's like being the straight man reacting to like these people acting crazy in this. But I actually think like they do like a few jokes here and there. When I say jokes, I mean like designated 15 to 45 seconds where they designate a moment just to trying to tell a joke, but they're few and far between. And like all of them where they are doing that are the clips they put out onto Twitter. So like when Nebula can't get into the car, when they're on that weird gooey moon thing and they're talking through the lines on the suit, when they're in the lift, like all these kind of scenes where they're designating a moment just to a joke are very few and far between. All the other kind of jokes are just like one lines being splitted out almost from like the background whilst like something else is going on. And that's sort of my best way for Marvel to do it in films. I think they're funnier in those ways. Like I remember, because I didn't laugh in really any of those scenes where they're like designate a moment to a joke or whatever. But they weren't offensive where I was like, oh, like sometimes in like Thor, especially, where I just hated it. But the more funny moments, firstly, came from Adam Warlock for me. It's just nice to have that kind of character, and like Will Porter's kind of playing Eustace from Narnia. He's kind of leaning into that bag, just like this kid who's just like, you know, big buff baby kind of thing. Not that he isn't a buff baby in Narnia, he's just a baby, but like leaning into that kind of thing, because I thought he was gonna like have an American accent for some reason, but he's just kind of just playing like his kind of like himself type thing. And yeah, the funnier moments are just like little lines like during scenes that had me been like like that kind of thing, eh? And I much preferred that. Because like I'm trying to think of an example. When they're in the house on like Counter Earth or whatever it's called, they're just in some other woman's house, and like they're all like lying down and stuff, and it's like they're trying to figure out what to do and where to go, but they don't speak the same language, and Drax keeps falling asleep on the sofa because he doesn't really understand what a sofa's made for, and Quill's explaining like the design process of a sofa and why they're built like that and what the purpose is for. And midway through, Nebula's just drinking some drink. She's like, "Oh fuck, that's good," type thing, and it's just like I can't remember which line in particular just caught me and made me laugh or something, but it's just like I think sometimes Nebula, because again, Karen Gillan, which I believe is her name, gets a lot of. I've seen like stick sometimes for prior films saying she's not that great or she's a bit over the top, but I always just put that down to that being the character type thing. And I feel like there's times in these films where she does her more human moments and they break through. Like her just there drinking a drink, being like, "Oh my god, that's good," and it catches me off and it makes me laugh sometimes. Like scenes when she's dancing and stuff in the films, or like tells Quill to knock it off when he's looking at her and stuff. Like I feel like Karen Gillan, you don't really see her in much either. No one really wants her when she's not bold with blue paint, but you don't see her in much films. I used to think the same about Tom Hiddleston, but I guess he's a bit more thespian and he's harder to cast in more things than just sort of playing low-key. But I think Karen Gillan, she was good. She was alright in Doctor Who. I don't really remember it that much, to be honest, but she's in a bag here. And I think she's a part of the New Guardians team as well. Like she's carried over. Because Drax is done, Gamora's done, and I liked that. You really think they're just going to try and force it and they're going to fall in love again and that's going to be another happy ever after, but it's not realistic. It doesn't go that way. Butterfly effect. She went on a different path in life. She's got a new family, which isn't this one. It just wouldn't make sense for her to just leave them and join. Like, it didn't work out that way. Like, she comes around on Peter by the end, but she's not like... She's like, "I'm sure we were great in the other life, but we're not in the other life." And then she goes and it's like, yes, man. Peter almost dies. His head blows up like a balloon in space. And you get saved by ADAM. They sort of recreate. I don't know what the famous painting's called, but you know the one where they're like, the little wee-wees are out, and they're like, are they out or are they covered? I don't remember. It's like on that big ceiling somewhere in like some fancy European country, and they're like touching fingers at like old painting. Sort of recreate that, reference to that. Is there anything else? Of course, there's other stuff, but you know, anything off the top of my head. I feel like there was something which I'll remember later and I'll be like, "Oh fuck, I forgot it." Because there was something I wanted to say when I was talking about them being in there. I mean, I haven't spoken much about Groot. Groot was alright. But when I was talking about good voice acting, God, they must do some crazy pitching to like Vin Diesel's voice when he's saying the words specifically am Groot. Because in this film, he says words, like at the end of the first one, he says, "We are Groot." And I'm like, okay. And in this one, he just straight up goes, it's honestly the most jarring part of the film. Like, I've seen animals be abused. I've seen like all sorts of shit go down. I've seen like weird animal people walking around, beating each other up, trading meth or whatever they're doing down back alleys, right? That's all stuff that happens. The thing that just caught me off and threw me the most, Groot just being like, "I love you guys," because it just didn't sound like Groot at all. It's like it went from like the Groot voice, which I know is also voiced by Vin Diesel, just sounding exactly like Vin Diesel. He just turned into Vin Diesel in that moment. It was just like, he might as well have been like, "We're family." You know what I mean? It was weird. And I know it's not, to me, it's not like weird that he could do that. It's just a different language. It's like if I just all of a sudden went, "Bonjour, ça va?" It's like, "Oh, what, how did you do that?" It's like, no, obviously you can learn another language, but it wouldn't be impossible for him to start speaking English. But it's just that Vin Diesel's voice. It's just like, you got Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel, you know, one, there's a reason, you know, Vin Diesel only really says, "I'm Groot," you know. But yeah, I like that moment as well with Adam at the end of the film. We have that awkward hug. I don't really know how they'll implement him into new stuff in the future, because you'd think they'd probably want to. But the problem is, is before and like phase 2, phase 3. It's like they could tease something at the end of a film, and within the next film or two, that character would pop up and they'd be there because there was only so many properties. You had like the Iron Man's, Captain America's, the Thor's, and then you had like the big films. And now it's like, not that I even liked the end credit scene in Thor, but you see Hercules pop up, Ted Lasso guy, and you think, oh, no idea where he's gonna feature ever again. It's just like, where on earth would he ever show up again? Like I still don't know. You'd think Fantastic Four would be the easy place for some of these people, but like I just, outside of that, you just don't know. Here again, I like the Harry Styles things. Like when, I mean, I guess in the Eternals too directly, but outside of that, I don't know. And the same with this film. It's like I would like to see more of Adam, but it's just like I don't know where. Is the painting something like is it called like Adam and something? Because I guess it makes sense that why you would reference that painting if it's like God and Adam, or Adam and God and man, or something, or the painting's called like something and Adam, because then it would make sense. It's like how in Eternals they like directly do the thing where it's like Icarus flies too close to the sun. Like he just flies directly into the sun in the film. So like I'm guessing the painting has got something to do with Adam, because Adam's like the first dude for talking Christian. I don't know. I don't know. Like it was good. It was good. It was really good. It was sad, but also had a happy ending. Music, soundtrack was really good. I think a part of me likes it more than the other two. I'd have to check them before I can even definitely say that, but partly because I'm always going to appreciate a soundtrack that has less obvious tracks in it. Like in the other ones you got Jackson 5. I know in this one you got Nirvana. You've still got big songs, big well-known songs. You had like Florence and the Machine at the end, but I don't know. Like the other ones is good, like Mr. Blue Sky, da, 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 da. And I know like honestly, like I didn't know Hooked on the Feeling and half of these songs before I even watched the film, so I can't say they were obvious ones. They just feel obvious now because of how iconic they kind of made them in their own kind of way. But I kind of like watching these films, hearing a song like, oh wow, this feels like such a good choice, and also being like, wow, I've never heard this song before, and that was nice. And the songs play a lot more regularly as well. It feels like in this film, like it feels like they were coming like every now, another great moment. So many great slow motion walking scenes. I could never overdose on a slow motion walking scene. They're just so good. I think in the first one you only get one at the end, and this one it's like all throughout. It's like we're non-stop walking in slow motion, and I love it, and I'm here for it. But yeah, I'd give it out a 10. Fuck. 8.5? Pretty high. 8.5, yeah. I think, the Adam Warlock stuff, but yeah. Obviously, I'm not, we're going all through spoilers. But his, like, mom, who is basically the same age, whatever, or she looks it, if she's not the same age, it's great skincare. But, she, like, perishes. And like he's sad about it, and it's really good. And all I needed was like a scene for it to cut to him after he's like flying through trying to grab her, and then she blows up in front of his face. I just needed one scene where like the world is like, because at the time like the planet they were on was getting bombed, it was getting blown up. All I needed was one scene where it's like an aerial shot, and like the ground is getting, because he's like basically indestructible. The ground is like getting fucking blown up all around him, and he just like looks up to the sky, and he's got like a look on his face, just like he's feeling sadness properly, or like for the first time, like just something, or something like a switch in his brain where it's like, what am I doing this kind of thing for? Like, why am I doing this for this guy? Like, because obviously he's like learning as this whole thing goes, but like that scene happens and then we just don't see him again until like he's on the ship, the Guardians, and he just has this big turn. He's like kind of with them now, and it's like I'm fine with that because he's basically a 2-year-old or whatever. So it's like I get that him switching sides. You don't need to give him a big speech for him to switch. He's like in infancy, but I just needed to see like honestly like a 10-second shot max of that. For the character, like I just needed like a really beautiful sort of shot and like some really great just sort of nuanced acting in the face, which Will Paul was capable of. And I probably would have given it an 8.6, a slightly better rating. But yeah, that's the only gripe I had with the film leaving. They kill the evolution. I don't know if he is dead. I assume so. He gets blown up on the planet, but like they kill him pretty easily. Like once they all get in the same room with him, it's like within like 9 seconds, like guy is finished. So I don't know how strong he really is, but yeah, I didn't really have an issue with it. Yeah, 8.5. I want to say these scores are always prone to change, though, up and down. There was one. And we're done, by the way. We're done. This was uno. Wait, no. Un, trois, deux. On toi, trois.
Here with the kids, and they had like 3 kids, and the geezer was probably on like maximum 20 bags a year. Like the most boring bloke you'll ever meet. He was like,